Hey, how you doing, guys? In the last video, we created a scaffold of our application using the Ionic CLI, and the thing I didn't realize is I forgot to put one argument which creates a blank project, but the result we got was something which had a tab bar and a bunch of chats built in. That's not something very useful for us, and going and deleting all the code would be more hassle than it's supposed to be. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to nuke this project and create a brand new blank project. And this will be a good overview, again, how to create Ionic projects. So to do that, I'm going to go up my directory and just nuke it using rmrf and typing the name of the folder, and this will nuke the project. Once that is done, I'm going to type in Ionic to get the list of commands available. And you can see to start a new Ionic project, you just type in Ionic start. So I will type that Ionic start and rename it Smart Mirror, or let's use the GitHub convention as Smart Mirror, and type blank to create a blank project. And we're back, and the application seems to be scaffolded, and we can cd to that folder. You type in cd smart mirror, and I'm going to open it in my text editor. I use Sublime Text, so I'm going to open it in Sublime. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start a local server where I can test and see what's looking on instead of running on an actual device and going back and doing things like that. So I'm going to type in Ionic serve to open the application in Chrome, and once I drag that down, you can see it's blank. So this is something we want because that's something that's going to be useful. I'm gonna give it about the size that I need, and I'm also gonna have my editor window here, lined here. And the first thing I'm gonna do is actually go to my GitHub and delete the project I had and create a new one. So I'll go to my GitHub, bring this, delete this project, net settings, delete, type in the name, and I'm going to create a new repository, Smart Mirror, and create. I will add that here. I'm going to open this in new tab, type in git init, and then git remote add origin, paste in the URL. You do note that to use the SSH URL, you need to match your SSH keys, and I do have one of the videos. I will post that in the link below on how to set it up SSH keys. And I will also commit initial code here. So if I just do git status, you can see all the files that are available. And if you remember in my previous video, I have to go to my git ignore, and I'm going to ignore all the client-side libs. So I will do that now and type in lib, save that, and now do git add dot to add everything, git commit, initial setup, and git push -u origin master. So what -u does is sets in upstream, so every time you don't have to type in origin master, git push origin master, you can just type in git push and it'll push to the current branch. So it makes it easier, you don't have to type everything. And now that it's done, I will open my code, I don't need this anymore. So since this is done, I'm gonna close that. And now I have my app and my code. So first thing first is we're gonna clear everything. We don't need the tab bar on top, so we're gonna get rid of that. And since I have live reloading, as soon as I save, it auto updates. So first things first is, what does our application need? So our application needs to be a black background, and it's gonna have information in white. So for now, we're just gonna display the weather information, and first we'll set the black background. So what I'm going to do is create a new file in our Sass folder called custom.sass. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to import that file after the Ionic one. So it's going to be custom.sass. I don't think you need to put the file extension. You could save that. And then my custom.sass, I'm going to type in body background black. And save that as well. And hopefully this works. Oops. So let's see why it's not working. So I'm going to open this out so it's easier to see. Make it a little bit smaller because we don't need it that big. And let's go to the body and let's see if our style is even getting applied, right? So what you can, so sometimes what happens is when you have styles that are more specific than other styles, for example, if there's a body with a class, it will always overwrite if you just type in body. So we want to make sure we're writing the right class, and I don't want to use important because that's not a good practice. So let's see, there's a background color somewhere. One other thing you could do is you can click on computed and then it will tell you all the styles that are applied to it, and here you will find out if there's a background color, and it doesn't seem like it's there. Then why is it not applying? So let's just type in here background black. That makes more sense. So the thing is, if you look at the body, it doesn't have a height. The body is just 0 pixels, so it is actually applying the background color black. So what we'll have to do is we'll have to apply the background color to the pane. So just to test it out, we're gonna do background black, and you see how it's applying there. So to do that, we're gonna change over custom, make it ion pane if I'm not right, or if I'm not wrong, and refresh, and still not there. So let me check the Ionic documentation for how you do it. So I'm on the Ionic documentation site, and I'm gonna go to Sass or CSS, how to customize Ionic with Sass. Oh, I guess I have to set up Sass. So I'll run that command, Ionic setup Sass, and it will install the dependencies. So this is one of the advantages of doing a code blog versus when you're just looking at a video. So I'm struggling to issues, going through documentation and figuring out how things are getting done. So I didn't know that using Sass I need to compile, and now I will go back, close this out, and run Ionic serve again, and move this over and follow the next step. So remove ionic.css from head and on the root, and add ionic app.css. Okay, so let's do that. So ionic app.css is there. I guess it already did it for you. And in the Ionic project, add JavaScript property gulp start task Sass. So let's find the ionic.project, and it's already there, so that's cool. It's done. So now we just need to call the right class. So if we go back to our window, make it a little bit smaller again, open the dev tools, and go open the pane, and we want to use class pane. So you could see that our background color is applied, but the problem is there's a background color with a more specific class of white that is applied. So if I remove that, it's going to be go black. So we want, in our custom style, we want to use the same class, as they have, so it won't cause any issues. So I can do .pane and it will go all black, and there you go. So one disadvantage of doing this is everywhere you use a pane, it's gonna go black. And the way to get around it would be giving it a custom class, but I think for this project it's fine, and if there's any issues later on in the video, we will do that. So next thing is in the Ionic content, we're going to display weather information. So we're going to be getting the weather information from a API, and the API we are going to be using is called Open Weather Map, which provides free access to the weather information, and you can get it by the city name, city ID, geographic coordinates, or zip code. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get the current location using Ionic. It's not necessarily to do that for this kind of application, but it's a good practice to test out different components of Ionic to learn it. And we're gonna go back to the Ionic docs, and let me add them here, and we're gonna search for a location. Let's see if we get anything. If not, then we'll just do a Google search, Ionic get location, and obviously we can go to Stack Overflow, because why not? So here's the things. Let's see, on map initialize navigator.geolocation.get current position. So just want to make sure we don't have to install anything, and doesn't seem like it. So let's also test that using our console. So if I go back to, so what we're going to type in now is going to type in navigator.geolocation.get current position, and this has a callback function. I wonder if I can use ES6 syntax in this. We'll find out. If not, and then I just want to console.log position, and it's undefined because it needs a permission. I'm gonna hit allow, and it gives you the coordinates. And if you go down coordinates, it gives you the latitude and longitude. Obviously I'm gonna be blurring this out because I don't want you guys knowing that information. And so this is how we can get our position. We can use the latitude, longitude in our API to get more weather data. So this URL is simple, so we'll set it up. The thing I want to do before we start adding stuff to our content is I want to add a color of white. So every text I type is white, and you can do FFF or type in white, doesn't matter. And just to test it out, I just put random text, and it is white, which is pretty awesome. So to get the weather information, I guess I can't make it smaller than that. No, oh, bummer. Make that smaller. So to get that weather information, you'll have to sign up on Open Weather Map API, and you'll have to get your API key. I already have done that, so all I have to do is sign in. And API keys, gonna copy my API keys. Obviously this is gonna be hidden because I don't want people copying my API keys. This is something that has to be kept private. And just to test the information, I will go back to API doc and go to this API and open it in the new tab just to see what kind of information we get. So you'll have to change the API ID to the API key provided by you, and as you can see, it gives you the weather, the wind, rain, clouds, whatever, and description and main. So what we want to do is we're gonna get that information and display that. So and I do want to display, like, if it's raining, I want to show like a rain. If there's like cloudy, I want to show a cloud. If it's sunny, I want to show a sunny background or an image or something like that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna include Font Awesome in my Ionic project. I don't know if Ionic comes with Font Awesome. I just want to make sure if it does or not. What Font Awesome is, it provides you icons that you can use on your project, and seems like Ion icons would also do the trick. And if I can install it through Bower, it makes it really easy. So all I have to do is type in Bower install Ion icons, and I can do that typing Bower install Ion icons, and it will go through the process. And now since that is installed, all you have to include an icon, all you have to type in is class icon Ion home, which the Ion home will be the name of the icon. And we'll keep this page open for a reference for now, and we go back to our code. We're gonna open our JS file. So in our case, we have our app.js, and since this application is a blank, there's nothing much, or it's not modularized, there's no controllers or services. And so what we're gonna do is add a new file, service.js, and might as well add a controller to it, controller.js. It's a good practice to kind of keep it modularized. In a larger application, it depends on who you're architecting it, but like most applications I've seen, they modularize by features instead of functionalities, which I feel is a better way to do it, and it's more manageable, honestly. So to kind of look at how our app.js is structured, we have our run, we're passing the Ionic, and we're just starting the application. So what you'll have to do is kind of the same. So to note our application is called starter. We can change this if needed. Let's do that real quick. Smart mirror, let's make a camel case. The application will break because that is what ng app is, so you have to change that as well. And now it's back. You will also have to add your controller and services, so you do that using script JS controller, and again type in script source JS services, and I'm going to move the app to the bottom. The next thing we're going to do is like angular.module smart mirror, and we're going to require the scope and controller be app controller, and this will be a function. So I think I don't need anything for now. I'm gonna use fat arrow function. Hopefully this works in Ionic. I'm not 100% sure if it does, but we'll find out if it doesn't. And we close that. I don't think we need a scope here for now. We can just leave it as a blank array. And in our app, we're gonna require the app controller as a string. And just to make sure it works, which it doesn't, we're gonna see what errors we're getting. So it says fails to instantiate due to my app not available, or either misspelled it, module or forgot to load it. And one other good resource would be Ionic's GitHub, which has examples. And here, if you go to JS controllers, and so our syntax for a controller is right, and we're gonna go back to their app, starter.controller. So I guess you gotta name it smart mirror dot controller, not control. this is still not gonna work because this has to be a controller. And there you go. So the problem was I named the module Smart Mirror, and I was calling the app controller, which is what I defined here, but I have to name it the module name smartmirror.controller, and now it works. And just to make sure it works, let's just do a console log hello from controller. Again, this is not gonna work because we never call the controller. So let me just move it right here so we can easily go back to it. And let's call the controller. It's easy to do. You can just type in ng controller app controller, and there you go, hello from the controller. So that works. We don't need this for now, so we're gonna get rid of that. And next thing we're gonna do is make our service. So we're gonna open our service file, angular.module smart mirror .services or service, whichever works. Pass in a blank array, and for now this is good enough, and we can include that as well. Service or services, and it didn't break, so that works. So what we're gonna do is use Angular's HTTP to get or make a request to the URL. And one thing I'm gonna do is so used to writing React in the past few days that it's so easy to require modules in your application that you can have a config file with your API key in it, and then you can just store that. But that's not how Angular 1 at least works, so I can't do that. And so we're gonna create an HTTP service. So we're gonna create a factory on the service file. So we're gonna call it factory, and we call it weather, and this is gonna require HTTP. We pass that in HTTP. Here we're gonna return a function get as an object, and this will get the latitude and the longitude. And first of all, let's just console the log to make sure this function even works and we're doing the right thing before we even include HTTP. So we can save that, go back to our controller. Let's add this back so we can test it. And here we're gonna require the smart mirror dot services, and in the controller I'm gonna call it, since I call it weather, I'm gonna do weather dot get, just pass in some random string, lat, just to make sure it works. And since it doesn't work, weather is not defined, and the reason for that is, okay, so we do not do it that way. Type in weather and pass that in as well. And I think I have a typo syntax error somewhere. And this array is not required. So there you go. I don't think you even need this because in the app it's already defined. So all you have to do is in the function you type in the factory name, and then you can do factory name.get longitude and latitude. You might be thinking I'm a little bit rough at Angular because there's the reason behind it is I haven't used Angular in a really long time. I've been doing a lot of React, so I'm kind of set in that mindset and I forgot a lot of the syntax. But once I start looking at some docs, looking at some examples, they'll all come back to me. So now our service is working. So instead of just console log, we want to get it from an API. So you want to use http.get. So for now, we're gonna just use our sample and paste that URL. So http get gets, you can pass in params, but it returns a promise. So you can do success, just gonna be having the weather, and for now it's console.log the weather, and it's gonna have an error as well, which is gonna have some error, and console.log error. Let's save that, and now we are actually getting information from our API. You could see you have the main object, you have the coordinates, you have the weather, which is an array, and it gives you a description and an icon. I'm not sure what the icon is, but it gives you a description and the main, which is what we're going to be using. So if you have our API set up, next thing you want to do is you want to pass that. So you want to return weather as well as return error. And over here, so right now we have the latitude longitude hard coded, which is not going to be the case because we're going to be getting that information from the current location. So over here, what I will have to do is type in then, and this will have some data just to make sure that it's working as well. I will do console.log. I like to do a lot of console.log just to make sure that information works, and see, in this case it doesn't work, and let's figure out why it's not working. I don't think I'm returning a promise, so I think I will have to return a promise instead of just doing that. So to return a promise, I'm gonna have to use Q, which is like a promise library used by Angular. So let's do that. Include that here, include it in the string, and then instead of returning weather, you want to do, so first of all we'll have to do var q equals $q.differ, and then in the success you want to do q.resolve weather, and then in the error, instead of resolving, you want to reject error, or pass that error as well, and then we can close that, and then you type in return q.promise, and now we can see we have the information. So let's just, to test out if our error is working, what we're gonna do is just remove one character from the API key, and you see you get unauthorized. I guess we're not getting the error right, so let's debug that as well, because we don't want to get an error. So let's see if we're getting any error. So to the console log, when we're getting the error, and when you do reject, let's look up the documentation for Q and figure out, do you pass in the error? So I guess you can just search $Q, it's right here, reject, then get async, you got then the greeting. You could do 10, which is success. Oh, you'll have to do it as a second argument. So in our controller, we could do error. And if we just do console.log error, this should give us 2 errors, right? So that works. We can remove this console.log here, save that, add that character back to our API key, right? So now that is set up, the next thing you want to do is you want to get the coordinates. So to do that, all you have to do is navigator.get. Let me just copy it from here. Position. So what we're gonna do is create a const position, and if you don't remember what information it results, missing indicator, const position or not. Interesting. I don't know if you could use const, so just change it to var. And so yeah, we do get our, so I guess const is not really meant for Ionic just yet. I'm not, that's what I said, I'm not sure if Ionic supports all the ES6 features, and it's fine, we can just use var for now. So we want to get geoposition.coords.latitude.longitude, so we're gonna set those here. Alright, let's make it into a proper function, and you want to set, let's create 2 variables, lat long, and you want to set the latitude to position.coords. Just take a look at it again. Let's just make it this size so it's easier to see, or even better, I'll make this smaller, make this larger, minimize this, so make it a little bit more taller, because we don't need that much real estate in our editor for now, because we can always scroll, so this way we can see all the information, all the screens at the same time. Makes it easier, not, you saves you time a little bit, not going back and forth. And you want to get the latitude, and you want to set that to position.coords.longitude. And then you want to pass those in instead. So latitude, longitude. One thing you want to make sure is you're passing it the right way. We have latitude, longitude, latitude, longitude. Perfect. So here, what we're gonna do is, again, I'm gonna do one more experiment if it supports the template, and change that to $lat. I don't know if this again supports string template, and that, and no city found. So it does support that, which is good. Just console.log our latitude and longitude. I think I know what the problem is, and it's going to be undefined. The problem is this function gets run, but the values are not set, and it's calling the factory while the values are not set because it's still not got the permissions from it. So what you want to do is a hack, I would call it, not a best practice, would be just move that in here, so this way we'll always have the latitude, longitude, and you don't even need that. You can just set a var here and a var here, so you don't even need that, and this should work. And I spelled it long. And now we're getting her information from our API, which is good. So we have our controllers and our services set up. So next thing we're gonna do is set up our view. And to do that, we're gonna use so we want to display a weather icon here. So we can just I think we need to include our icons in our index. So let's just do sunny and just copy that. Just go back to the GitHub and make sure we're copying class icon ion name. So class icon and name, and we do get that. So I guess we don't need to include that in our file. Oh yes, because everything gets compiled into one bundle and then it's served. So, and one thing I noticed is that I do have a scroll. I want to get rid of that scroll. That is very not useful. Ionic remove scroll. I think it's a property you would add to the content scroll false. Yeah, so scroll false. Yeah, this is better. So now we have our icon enabled. So let's go back to our API, and I want to find out what kind of information we can get, or what sort of main do we have. So main, you have weather main gives rain, snow, extreme. So you have rain, snow, extreme, but that doesn't tell you everything, does it? We need the port, at least sunny, we need the rain, and we actually just need sunny. So we need sunny. So iOS sunny. We need rain. So it should be just rain. Rainy. Probably get snow as well while we're at it. And seems like we have those. We're gonna give it one more class, which be icon size. Added to all of them. And then in our SAS file, we're gonna give this a font size of, let's say 40 pixels maybe. That's too small. About 100 pixels. That looks about right. Maybe you could go a little bit more bigger. 200. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So we have those, and what we want to do is, based on what kind of weather it is, we're gonna change the icon and we're gonna show the temperature. So we don't need the service file for now. We can close that. We don't need this file. And let's go back to our controller and let's get scope. And let's set scope dot. So we want to set the type. So we're going to do weather. Style weather dot scope dot weather equals data dot weather, the first array. So just to set it to all. And you could do ng if weather dot, so we just want to get weather dot main equals clear. We want to show that. Copy the ng if, change the clear to rain, and do note we'll style it later on. We just want to get the main functionality working. And no, so now since we have the weather is clear, we only have the sunny, so that's working. We also want to show a temperature, so we could do that here, and a div to, again, let's find the temperature. It's, I don't know if it's in the weather information, it's not, it's in the main, and you have the temperature as 304, which is in Kelvin. Do note that. Weather.main.temp, and I think it's there, but it's showing as black. That's why it's not showing up, or it's not there. Oh, my bad. It's because we never defined that in the controller, so we can do that using scope.temp equals data.main, and close that for now. Type in temp.main.temp. Check if it's there now. Still not there. And one thing you could do is you can use a scope inspector, which is a Chrome extension, and see if we're getting the right ones. So school scope, we want to do parent temp dot, there's no main, and there you go. We have our temperature in Kelvin. Like, we want to convert that to Celsius, so let me find a formula for Kelvin to Celsius, or I mean Fahrenheit. It's gonna be, what is it, temperature Kelvin times 905 minus 459 point. So let's just kind of like keep that in our mind, and instead of giving it the whole thing, let's just pass it the temperature. But before that, you want to do var temp equals data.main.temp, put that in quotes, times 9/5 minus 459.67. Just console log it as well to make sure we get the right temp. You don't really have to, because we're gonna just display that temp in here. And I guess we should have console logged it. And now we can see if there's any error. We get the value, but why aren't we not getting it? So let's go back. Oh, we'll have to change this to just temp, and that is, we want to round it. Well, you could do it, you can also do it here. And there you go. You can put F. So now you have the temperature and the icon. So now let's go styling it. So we want it to be center. So let's put this in a div, give it class weather pane, indent everything, and then close the sidebar so you can see better. Class weather temp text, and in here I'm going to do weather pane let's just play with our console first before we type and go back and do that, because I feel that's easier. Want to do display flex line item center. Actually, we want to do justify content center, right? So we're gonna have to do that on the pane. Flex justify content center, and we're gonna close that for now. Gonna get weather temp text, and I'm gonna give it a font size of like 30 pixels, so it's wide and big. And I'm gonna do text align center as well on the weather pane, so that way everything's in the center. And we also want to add a description to it, so we could just do it here in a span. It should be just weather main dot description. Or not, because why would it ever work in the first time? So weather pane, let's go back here, go back to our scope inspector, check if we have the right one. Weather dot description, there's no main. Why am I typing main? And you have a clear sky. Just put a break tag. Give it some line height maybe, so it looks better. There's feel like it's squished a lot. I think a 2 is fine. So we just add line height of 2. I guess you can put pixels. Yes, 30 pixels is a better number instead of just typing 2. And there we go. Now we have our weather information and our icon updates based on the weather information. But there is one problem. This application is not gonna clues or stuff like that. It's always gonna be here. So what we want to do is we want to set our controller on a set interval, so it gets the weather information every few intervals. So to do that, we're gonna type in, just want to make sure, because Angular has its own set interval and I don't remember the syntax for it, so let's just Google that. So it's a function delay and count. So delay is a number of milliseconds, and you could just do dollar interval. Let's put this in a function. Makes it easier, or makes it more readable, I guess. Get weather. Let's move that in there. We want to call get weather every, so we want to call it every day, because we don't want to call it every, or maybe we can call it every 5 hours. So put it in, maybe like update it every 5 hours, which is going to be 1800 milliseconds. And first we have dollar intervals undefined. Yes, so we need to actually include interval before we can use it, and that should work. But why are we not getting any information? It's gonna call it every 1800 seconds. Let's do 500 milliseconds for now. So every 500 milliseconds it's calling it. We should probably stop that before we get kicked out of the API. So what happens is every 1000 milliseconds or whatever it was, we're calling it. So I want to call the function first and then run that set interval. So now this would get called every 5 hours just to test it, and do it 1000 milliseconds, and it works. So now our temperature will be auto updating, and I think our application is done. Just remove all the console logs. Don't need that. We can leave the error one in. And I think we have a console log in the service file, so we can get rid of that as well. And now our application is ready to be used on our smart mirror. And then the next video I'm gonna show you how, or like even at least pictures of how I build a smart mirror. It's actually very easy. You just need some construction paper and stuff like that, and I will show you how you build that. And we can just tape our application in and we will test that out. So before we end that, one thing I do want to do is I want to test this on an actual device. My tablet is out of battery, so I'm just gonna use my phone for the demo. And all you have to do is I will also start an app called Reflector, so I can mirror my phone, and so you can see what exactly is happening on the phone as well. And that's my phone right there. You do have to disable enable developer options. So to do that, you want to go to settings, go down to about, and you will hold the build number, and just tap it multiple times and it will start give you developer options. And there you will want USB debugging on. So once that is done, what you want to do is go back to your terminal, check the options for Ionic to do that. We can keep the Ionic serve, which is fine. We want to do Ionic run Android. What if I just do Ionic run? It's starting iOS simulator. And as you can see, actually the app doesn't even work on the iOS simulator, which is interesting, and we'll have to figure out why that is happening. But before we do that, let's go check out why it's not working on an Android. I think to do Ionic platform, add Android first, because I don't think Android was added, and that's probably what it is. and it will do all its thing. I think the reason it's not working on iOS is because we are using ES6 and iOS probably does not support all the ES6 features on the web view, and that's why it's breaking. But if this is happening in our Android app as well, we'll have to go remove it, or we can just use something like Babel to kind of like make it an ES5. Because I do like using ES6 because it's pretty nice. So it's successful and it's installing, and as you can see I have the same issue on my Android phone. So there is actually a way where you can see logs for it. So to finally run that on an Android device, you wanna we're having this issue while we're running on our device. It's actually not working properly. What we're getting is some errors and it's not showing anything. And what we want to do is we're going to run it on an Android device with a live reload server and console logs enabled in debug mode, so we can actually get better issues and delog build what's happening. I'm pretty sure it's the ES6 which is having issues, and we might have to install Babel to figure that out. Yes, you gotta go to Ionic bundle.js. I want to go to line 17237. That makes no sense. So as usual, I will Google it. So it's interesting on our Android application, iOS application, we're actually getting everything. Let's kill that. Let me open that again. Let me try adding Babel to Ionic to fix this issue. So I'm just following this guide and just following what it's doing. So I will have a link to it in the description. So let's kill that. And we're gonna open our gulp file and require Babel and plumber. So as you can see, we're having this issue on our devices that application is not even working, but that was not the case when we're testing in the browser. This happens a lot of time with Ionic, that it will work in a browser, but it doesn't work in a device because it does use web views, and web views might be not supporting some features, like some we are using ES6 features that we're doing. It might not be supported. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to figure out what is causing that issue, and then in the next video I'm gonna debug that issue and figure out what's happening, because I don't want this video to be longer. This is almost an hour long anyways. So if you like the content, like it, subscribe, and share with others, and stay tuned for the next one.